Hello wannabe mechanics, in this video we are going to replace the strut assembly on a 2011 1.6 liters 156 horsepower Mercedes C180 compressor. Driving on worn struts actually costs you more because the unchecked bouncing destroys your tires and quickly wears out other expensive suspension components like ball joints, control arm bushings, stabilizer bar and links, and tie rod ends. Worn struts are dangerous because they also increase your stopping distance. Replacing just the strut mount, the coil, or the used shock absorber may be a dangerous job for a DIYer. You have to compress the spring and remove the strut while praying the spring wouldn't let go and take out an eye or a limb. Also, removing the rusty nut at the top of the strut could turn into a nightmare if the internal hex strips out. But these days you can buy a complete strut assembly that eliminates the strut, spring, mount, disassembly process. These assemblies allow you to replace both of the front struts yourself in less than 2 hours. You have to get an alignment done afterwards, but the strut assembly is very easy to replace on this car and you can save quite some money doing it yourself. If you want to replace any part of the assembly, you can watch our video on how to replace the strut mount and the strut mount bearing that I linked below, but be aware of the fact that the springs on this model are extremely compressed and you will need 2 sets of spring compressors. The tools you will be needing for this operation are a breaker bar with a 17mm socket, 2 flat-end screwdrivers, an E12 Torx, an E14 socket, an E18 socket, an 18mm socket for the sway bar link, a 5mm hex bit to counter hold while removing the sway bar's link, an 18mm box end wrench also for the sway bar's link. Now, if you want to replace just the shock absorber or the strut mount, you will need the following: a 21mm socket with a hollow end in case you need to counter hold with a T50. The T50 I previously mentioned. A ratchet wrench. And 2 sets of spring compressors. Remove the wheel using the breaker bar and the 17mm socket. Place a jack stand and the wheel under the car as safety measures. This is the E18 bolt with the 18mm nut. Then you have 2 E14 bolts on each side. and you will have to remove the upper 18mm nut on the sway bar's link. Remove the E18 counter holding the 18mm nut. Remove the 18mm nut counter holding with the 5mm hex bit. Use a long metal bar to pull the sway bar downwards in order to extract the sway bar's link. Remove the two E14 bolts. We've done it from under the car so we can illustrate their location, but you do not need a garage pit to do it. Remove the wiring harness from the strut assembly. The harness is held to the strut by these two locking clips and a zip tie which you will just have to cut. And now the strut assembly is free. Remove the three E12 bolts that hold the strut assembly. You do not have to hold it with your hand until you remove the plastic cap. Use a screwdriver to compress the two clips on both sides of the plastic cap. Then you can take out the old strut assembly. Now we can insert the new strut assembly. Tighten the three E12 bolts. Do not forget to apply some grease on all the bolts before threading them back in. Insert the E18 bolt and the 18mm nut. Thread and tighten the two E14 bolts. Now you can tighten the 18mm nut while counter holding the A18 bolt. Insert the new zip tie, then rotate the harness until the holding clips pop out. Attach the wiring back to the harness. Lock the zip tie and cut the excess. Pull the sway bar in order to insert the upper part of the sway bar's link. Tighten the 18mm nut on the sway bar's link and counterhold with the 5mm hex bit if it's necessary. Place the wheel back on and lower the car. As a final step, you'll have to fix the dust cover back in place. Thank you very much for watching. Use the comments section for any questions or suggestions, and if you find our videos interesting, make sure you subscribe for the latest wannabe mechanic videos. Bye bye.